Hey everybody, welcome back to So Arizona. I was talking with you in the last video about how I was going to be harvesting the potatoes and the parsnips from one of my long beds so that I could make room for some more seedlings. And I did end up getting rained out last night, but not before I got everything harvested in that bed. So I didn't get anything planted. That's on the agenda for today, but I did get some things harvested, and I want to show you some of these lovely little parsnips. They were really nice parsnips. Most of them were a really good size, and I'm excited about these because I am going to be taking the parsnips and the potatoes, some of my fresh onions from the garden, some garlic from last year, a bunch of different herbs, and what else do I have? Oh, and my freshly harvested carrots. I haven't published that video yet, but I will. And that's all going to be put into a beef stew for dinner tonight that we're going to slow cook. So I'm so excited about that. Obviously, we had to buy the beef, but pretty much all of the vegetables will have come from right here in my backyard. And that is one of the rewarding things about gardening. It's that you get really fresh, organic food. You know exactly what went into it and where it was grown. And the commute from the garden to the table is not very far, and it is so flavorful. I was amazed by how good these parsnips smelled as I was pulling them from the soil last night. They smelled just sweet and just so yummy and parsnippy, and they were just really getting me excited about cooking something with them. And so when I was looking around at what I had, I realized that we had a piece of beef in the freezer and we had all the vegetables we needed. So that is going to be a really rewarding dinner for sure. I also had a ton of potatoes that I harvested, and those are going into the stew as well. Not all of them. I still have to weigh them and tally them up and share them with you just to see how many I got. So I will share all of those. I've got a lot of work to do out here in the garden this afternoon. It's kind of an overcast, kind of windy day today. A little bit cooler temperatures because we did get rain last night. So I'm going to take advantage of it and get a bunch of different things planted today in the garden. So once I get done with that, I will let you know about the potato harvest for sure. I've got some seeds that I want to plant so that I can get them started in the house to be able to transplant out in a few weeks. So I'll share that with you. I have got a raspberry, an elderberry. I've got some creosote bushes that I want to plant, a bunch of different just annual vegetable seedlings like peppers and eggplants that are going to be going in. So I have a lot of things to get done today, and I am just going to take the day and just really enjoy being out here. In spite of the wind, it's not my favorite when it's windy, but it is overcast and I will take that for sure. So I'm gonna go get some of that stuff done. I will show you what it looks like once I'm finished planting it, and then we will chat a little bit and I will show you what seeds I'm planting right now. It is the very beginning of May. Today is May 5th, for those of you who are wondering about what time of year I am planting these certain things. I've heard from quite a few of you that it's really helpful for me to say the date. So I think I'm gonna go back and try to at least pen a comment on some of my older videos and include the date on those, just so that you know exactly what time of year I'm doing it in case you are tuning in at a later time or in a later season. All right, let's get to work. This morning I got up and I finished my job. Since I got rained out and I lost the daylight, I had to finish this bed, prepping it and then turning it over and planting other things in it this morning. So I tried to make kind of a nice little time of it. I built a fire in my chimney on my little patio next to my stock tanks, and I have a little patio table there, and so I was planting some seeds, and I'll talk about which ones I planted. And then I came out here once it warmed up a little bit because it was actually kind of chilly after the rain, and I topped this bed with some fresh compost. I had to take the irrigation lines up, shovel the compost in, smooth it out, put the irrigation lines back down. I have 3 irrigation lines running the length of this bed, and then I will just plant on either side of it. So it works out really well, I think. I am using some, you could probably see here, some burlap instead of that plastic shade cloth. I shared before that I noticed last year that it was shedding little plastic particles all over the garden, and every time I would fold it or you move it to another bed, I could see it just flying in the sunlight, and I don't want to have plastic particles in my soil. So I've been testing this burlap for quite a few months now, and I really actually think it's going to work well this summer for shading out some of the most extreme sun. So when I put this burlap down and then I peek under it, it actually actually lets a lot of light through, but it just breaks it up and it makes it a lot less harsh. And so far the plants are responding really well to it. I think it'll be interesting to test it out this summer in the hottest part of the year. And we're gonna get a chance for that really soon, because I saw the forecast for Monday and they're forecasting 102. So that, I think, is going to be the start of our summer heat for sure. And then I looked at the extended forecast, and from there on out it's supposed to be in the mid 90s for the next couple of weeks. So I think our cool season is done for sure, and our early spring temperatures are done. I think we are marching quite quickly into summertime. So I'm excited to try out this burlap just to see how it works this summer. I will let you know for sure. Burlap is not great for insulating, so frost cloth is still going to be needed in the winter time, but it does really well so far for the sun, and I'm actually hoping that it will block some of the rodents, because I have had such a hard time with pack rats this season in my garden, and I've shared a little bit about that. So I'm going to show you this, but I have this pretty secured to try to keep the pack rat out. I'm hoping that it will at least deter the lazy pack rat thief in the middle of the night, and that he'll go find something else to eat. So I planted this bed in peppers, almost entirely in peppers, up until that white silage tarp that you see, which is killing the Bermuda grass. And at the very end of the row, I ran out of peppers, and I actually had two Black Beauty eggplants that I needed to plant. So I stuck those in at the very, very end. But otherwise, this is all peppers of various kinds. I've got jalapenos, I've got serranos, I've got a bunch of big Jims, I've got some bell peppers, and a lot of other things too. So I'm really excited about this bed. I did plant kind of in between some of the peppers in an alternating way some okra, and I'm hoping that the okra will grow up and above the peppers, and it will provide a little bit of shade for the peppers, because they do appreciate some shade from the hottest afternoon sun during the summertime. So you would think peppers are a heat-loving plant, and they are for sure, but they do get a little bit puny sometimes during the hottest part of the summer, at least here in southern Arizona. So I'm hoping that the okra will provide food and also a little bit of dappled shade to those. All right, so here is this row. I am sorry to say that I completely forgot to video what was underneath here. I've got the little hoops from Johnny's. We'll take a peek at that. That I just love. I just move these all over the garden. They're flexible, and I have 3.5 foot beds. That's how wide they are. So these hoops do just fine for that. I cover it with whatever it is I need, shade cloth, frost cloth, or whatever, and then I secure it just with these little spring clips. Not high tech, but effective and affordable. And so I have it kind of fastened all the way down, as you see. I tried to fasten it pretty tight, and then on either side I've weighed it down with all of these rocks. And what I'm hoping is that it will keep the pack rat out. And I'm sure he could squeeze in to little spaces here and there, but I've really tried, even on the ends, to fasten it really well. So we'll see. He didn't bother it last night. The storm finally did come through. We got a lot of rain, and then I lost daylight. So I really wasn't able to get a whole lot of footage for you of all of the potatoes and the parsnips that I was pulling out of the ground. I got a little bit. It's a little bit dark. I will share it right here, but I wanted to give you the tally. I'm going to put a graphic up on the screen with the variety and the amount of potatoes that I got from each one. I'm going to go in order from least to greatest for pounds of harvest. So the first one is the red Nordland, and that one always does really well. I think that it is a good tried and true variety, but it actually came in last as far as the number of pounds of potatoes that the potato plants produced. So for the red Nordland, I only got about 2.5 pounds, a little over 2.5 pounds. So that was a little bit disappointing. I thought for sure I was going to get more than that. The next one in line is a new one for me called Prairie Blush. I'll include the name of the company as well as the variety. I got all of these from the same company. Check the description box below, and I will leave a link to their website so that you can check out what they have. So the next one was Prairie Blush, and I got about 4.5 pounds from that one. So that one wasn't too bad. And lastly, the winner of this year's potato contest is the Sarpo Una. and that is supposed to be a really rare potato, and I got almost 6 pounds of potatoes from those. So that one was really good. They are a pink oblong, kind of oval shaped potato. They're kind of small. They're bigger than fingerlings, but a similar shape, and they are pink. All in all, I'm pretty happy about it. So I think I got close to 11 pounds of potatoes, and it actually got me thinking about how our gardens produce and how much we would actually have to grow to be able to meet our needs, our daily caloric needs, but in particular, since we're talking about potatoes, carbohydrate needs. So if I grew probably, it was probably about a 16 square foot space, and I got about 11 pounds of potatoes out of that. Can you imagine for one person for an entire year to be able to supply the carbohydrates that you would need? I think that I would need a ton of land to do that, whether I was growing grains or beans or root vegetables like potatoes. That would take so much space. So that really makes me respect even more the farmers that grow the carbohydrates that are so important for our health, like the beans and the potatoes and all of the different grains. So very, very hard work. In this bed, I planted the yellow watermelons that I got at the Native Seed Search plant sale. I shared about that variety before. It's the Tahana Autumn variety. I'll put the name on the screen here again, just in case you want to check it out. It's literally the best watermelon I have ever tasted. And since I started growing it just 3 years ago, I haven't grown another watermelon since. Maybe I should branch out, but I don't think you can improve upon perfection, in my opinion. Try that one for sure. But I've got those spaced out about every 5 feet. Then I have alternating okra and sunflowers in here just to provide a little bit of shade and to utilize the upper portion of the bed. And then all along the cattle panel, I've got planted some cowpeas, and these are a really adorable variety. They are the black and white. They look like little cows, little black and white cows, and they are also a Tahana Autumn variety. They are very heavy producers, and I was just talking about how it's really hard to provide or grow enough carbohydrate for one person for a year. I grew these last year, and I am just finishing up the last bit, and I think I probably made about 10 pots of soup with those, and they're considered a black-eyed pea. So that's not too bad because I really didn't plant that many plants. So I saved the seeds, and I'm really looking forward to growing those this year too. So that's what I have in this bed. I have okra, cowpeas, sunflowers, and watermelon. So I'm really excited about it. Obviously, I have it all covered. Hopefully the little wee beasties can't get to this either, because if they do, I am seriously going to cry. I did the same thing with the burlap, and I also secured it to that cattle panel with those spring clips, and I weighed it down with the rocks, and I kind of did like a little teepee kind of a thing. Here is my new purple possum passion vine. So in case you forgot, down on this other side, like way down there, I have another little one. So here's this one. He's coming back from the winter, so he's got a ways to go still. The new one probably spent the winter nicely tucked into a greenhouse, so it's a little bit further along. They will die back to the soil line quite often in colder areas and then just grow back. But I've got my little plum tree, a couple of artichokes, and then I've got my pear tree here. But my plan is to have this purple passion vine go this way, and then that new one to come this way, and hopefully they can utilize that space behind the pear and the plum tree. So this way I can try to get additional food by growing vertically. I've got my little bird center here right now. I've got my bird bath, and I have some bird feeders. I'm trying to make peace with them. So hopefully it will grow right here, and it'll be a really beautiful little fruit corner. So we shall see. And then I've got this little mixed flower bed, and some of the things are starting to die off, like the early spring flowers, like the linaria is kind of toast. Some of the poppies are starting to fade. See these poppies behind me? These are the antique Flemish poppy. They're seeds that I got from Baker Creek for free with one of my seed orders. Never grown those before. The bloom looks just like a peony. It is so beautiful. They always kind of tend to have a bit of a brown tinge around the edges of the petals. So they look like maybe like a day old peony, but they are still beautiful. I really like them. So I think I'm going to save the seeds from those. And at first I thought, oh, well, the bees aren't really bothering with them. Maybe the bloom is just all show and nothing really beneficial, but I was wrong. I was standing out here just looking around at them just yesterday, and I saw bees come and land on them, and then they just sort of swam into all of those fluffy petals, and they got in there and they got the pollen, and then they went on to the next one. So the bees like it too, 100% gardener and bee approved. So I would highly recommend including this in your flower beds if you have some. So I've got a lot of different things planted in here just for the warm season. So there's a bit of a lull and some dead spots in this flower bed right now, but I've got some zinnias already coming up and some cosmos and quite a few other things. The bachelor's buttons are hanging on pretty well. I've got some Dara, which looks a lot like a carrot bloom, but it's pink. I added in, because I bought too many plants and I was looking all over the garden trying to figure out where to put them, I added a couple of zucchini into some open spaces here. So I won't plant any flowers around those because they can just kind of fill in. So we're going to go for like a French potager garden where you have the herbs and the flowers and the vegetables together. That's what I'm going to go with. That's the style I'm claiming right now. And then on the other side of the garden, I added in the Punta Banda tomato that I bought, and also a couple of different cucumbers because the rat ate my cucumbers. So hopefully I can get some cucumbers this year and some jalapenos if the rat would just leave me alone. So we will see. I'll let you know. Let's go take a closer look though at a couple of these flowers because they are just gorgeous. Oh my gosh. So I was over there chit-chatting with you and I happened to glance at this little stock tank full of tomatoes right here. And I noticed a little bit of red down below here. And I found my very first tomato, y'all. Just look at that. That is not going to last long, I can tell you that much, because I have not gotten really any tomatoes yet this year. I had a couple that got a little bit orange. They weren't quite close, and the birds got them. So I've got a lot of things under cages and under burlap right now. Not as much as I will have when I have to shelter everything from the sun, but we are doing what we have to do here so that we can get some tomatoes for ourselves. I guess, you can't blame the creatures. We live here in the desert where food is scarce, and I have planted a beautiful green buffet full of food and water and shelter. So of course they're going to want to come here. If I was a creature out there on the other side of the wall, I would be trying to figure out how to get into this garden too. So can't blame them for that. Not the best, but I'll take it. This video has just been a little bit disjointed between rushing to try to beat the sunset and the storm last night and getting up this morning and planting seeds, amending the beds and planting my seedlings. I have just been really, really busy, and so I feel like I've just been trying to film in little pockets here and there throughout the last couple of days, but I've finally got it done, and I'm really happy to share all of it with you so that you know exactly what I'm planting right now. It can be always tricky here in southern Arizona to know exactly when you should be starting seeds or exactly when you should be planting out seedlings. So I try to just make sure that I share with you what I'm doing and when I'm doing it so that you can try to stay on track with your planting too. So this morning I built a fire in my little chimney. I set up shop on my patio table next to my stock tanks, and I tried to get some seeds started. Some of the seeds are just going to be replacements for what the pack rats or whatever have been eating in the garden. I have just had the worst trouble. I planted these really nice yellow and orange jalapeno varieties, and I had alternated the seedlings over next to my tomatoes so that I could have yellow and orange and yellow and orange, and I was so excited about the combination. I'd started those seeds in December and I put them out. I even put cages around them, and the pack rat or the mouse or whatever it was able to go underneath the cage, so that when I took off the burlap, which I was using to harden them off in place with, there were no peppers under there. They had all been swiped. So the little thief got away with those, but I love these so much, this variety. It's pumpkin spice and lemon spice jalapenos, and I think they're really flavorful, and of course they're really, really pretty too. And I love being able to pickle them with the green, and they just look beautiful in the jar. Normally I will start things like peppers and tomatoes and tomatillos and eggplants for the second round of growing in June, and then I'll plant them out with the monsoon season. But since I've had so much trouble with these pests eating all of my seedlings, I'm starting off the first half of the summer with a lot less plants than I would like to have. So I want to make sure that I have really robust plants so that I have bigger ones to set out with the monsoon season. So I'm actually starting them early, about a month early. So if you want to try doing that, you could, as long as you have adequate light in your house, whether it is a grow light or you can put them outside in a protected area or whatever. But if you want to start them early and you want to start them indoors, just make sure you have enough light so they're not leggy. But that's what I'm doing. I'm starting a few special tomatoes early, and I'm replanting those yellow and orange jalapenos so that I have them. And what else am I starting? Oh, I'm starting a special pumpkin variety that I'm growing out for Seed Savers Exchange. So I've shared that I am doing a Setzer hot dog tomato for Seed Savers Exchange as well. I'll take you over there in just a minute and let you see the plants because they are looking really healthy, finally, and they actually have their first fruit on them. And so I've been checking on this little baby fruit every day, and oh my goodness, if something happens to that fruit, I'm gonna be so heartbroken. So fingers crossed that the rats do not see it. But I'm starting a pumpkin, and actually what I'm going to be doing is planting those pumpkins in that big triangle bed on the other side of the garden that right now I'm finishing up garlic in. So I'm still waiting on the garlic. I've got a few more weeks for that. I want to make sure I get a head start on those pumpkins, so I'm planting the seeds inside, and that way I can just transplant out the seedlings in a few weeks once the garlic is finished and I get that bed cleared out. But this pumpkin, this is another one that they don't really know much about. It was donated to them. It's called the Pentaquad squash, but it's supposed to be a pink pumpkin. The person that donated it was an elderly man, and he said that he remembered it being really prolific where he grew up. I can't remember where that is right now. I don't even know if they gave me that information. I think it was in the South somewhere. And so where he grew up, he said that was the pumpkin of choice for them around Halloween that they would carve their jack-o'-lanterns with. But really, other than that, they don't know anything about it. So I'm really excited to try it out and see how it does for us here, and hopefully I can get some seeds to harvest to send back to Seed Savers Exchange. So that is another seed that I'm starting. Otherwise, I'm going to be doing ground cherries, which I love. If you're looking for a backyard fruit, that's a really good one. And then I'm going to be starting flowers. So some of the flowers I'm just wanting to have succession plants for. So like sunflowers. Most sunflowers, they bloom once and then they're finished. And so I like to have sunflowers kind of all through the summer season and even into the fall. So every couple of weeks I will sow more seeds. And I sow some seeds in the house in little trays, and then some seeds I will just directly sow outside. I've been having trouble, story of the summer, with the rodents eating my sunflower sprouts too, which hasn't really happened too much in this garden for me. So I'm starting some backup seeds in the house so that I can plant those out, and I will do that every 2 or 3 weeks. I do more seeds. That way I have sunflowers pretty much blooming all throughout the season. And I'm also doing that for zinnias. You can start zinnias if you're in southern Arizona until about, I would say, mid-June, if you want to be able to have them blooming in time for fall. And then I'm going to do a few cosmos. I'm also going to be starting amaranth. I love amaranth in the garden. I have so many different varieties, so they come in different heights and different colors, and they just add so much beauty to the garden and so much interest, because some of them are really tall, some have green leaves, some have red, some have white blooms, you know, so they're just really, really interesting plants, I think. I've been loving growing the coral fountain variety. It looks like it's a lot shorter amaranth, and it has like really droopy flowers on it. It's really interesting looking for sure. So I'm going to be starting some of that. And then also more okra. So you might think I'm just okra crazed, but I've had such poor luck with it that I just want to make sure that I have enough. So I'm going to be starting a few of those in trays in the house. I've heard people say that okra doesn't really transplant well, but that has not been my experience. I think as long as you are really careful not to disturb the roots, it usually works out just fine. I have a few different varieties that I didn't mention in my last video, and that is the Hing Orange, the Burgundy, I may have mentioned that one, the Dwarf Long Pod, which is a really interesting one if you're growing in a small space. That one's really prolific and not very tall. And then there are a couple others. I mentioned the Eagle Pass, I mentioned the Beck's Gardenville the other day, Clemson Spineless. So I've got quite a few different ones. Oh, the Yuma Red. So I've got lots of different ones. I'm not going to be planting a ton of each one of those plants because a little bit of okra goes a long way. But I do want to have several different colors because I think that they just are really pretty and they're just lovely. Even if you don't like to eat it, the pollinators love the flowers. They look like a beautiful hibiscus flower, so I just like growing it just for how it looks. Okra is a really special plant. I thought about doing a video on it, and you should let me know if it's something that you'd be interested in. But the entire plant is edible. Maybe not the root, but the seeds, the leaves, and the pod are all edible. And if you're a little bit put off by the slimy nature of okra, the Yuma Red that I'm trying this year is supposed to have less slime than some of the other ones. So you could always keep that in mind and try that one out and see what you think about that. So that's what I've got going on in the garden. That's what I'm harvesting, and that's what I'm planting. I told you all I would check in on these Setzer hot dog tomatoes, and I haven't forgotten. But first I'm going to show you, do you see my little fortresses here? This is where I put the Kiribasho melons, that little cassava melon that I got at Native Seed Search. Not only does it have a cage around it, but I have also weighed the cage down with big rocks. So unless we get an Arnold Schwarzenegger type of rodent, I'm hoping that they won't be able to move these rocks and cages to get to these babies. The melons are going to be growing in the front all along here. Hopefully I don't regret that combination. I'll let you know. And then I've got my Setzer hot dog tomatoes. But look how big they've gotten. And here's the fruit. Look at him. He's not looking too hot dog-like right now. Looking more like a Roma type of tomato, but we'll see. And I guess everybody has different interpretations of what they see. So maybe somebody thought it really did look like a hot dog. Oh, I see there are a couple more that have set fruit there too. So that's really, really exciting, especially since I just struggled to keep these alive at first. And I see over here, let's see, I've got some more blooms there. So they're looking healthy, they're looking happy. Let's hope I can get some fruit and some seeds off of these things. The garden's looking really pretty right now with the 102 temperatures on the horizon. I think I may do another garden tour video just so that you can see things at their peak, because the tomatoes are looking lovely, the eggplant is looking lovely, the nasturtiums are still hanging on that I was too weak to remove, and I'm so glad I didn't, because they actually made a comeback and they have just been gorgeous over in my courtyard, my little patio area that surrounds my stock tank garden. I've also got some anemone bulbs that I planted in the little pots with some of my dwarf tomatoes, and they're coming up and they are just looking really, really cute. I love them so much, and I think that I'm going to add those to the rotation every year for sure. But anyway, before the heat gets really going, I want to be able to share some of this stuff with you so that you can see how beautiful it looks right now before June comes in and totally fries everything and I have to erect shade cloths all over the garden, and then it looks like I'm growing a campground again. So I really wish we didn't have to cover things. I think it looks so much prettier without it, but it is what it is, and we can grow here year round, so I should not complain that I have to sometimes put a little shade over things. So anyway, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I'm Kara from So Arizona. Until next time, happy gardening.